Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we're reading from Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 60, Text 52, and it's March 24th, 2025 in New Goloka, Hillsborough, North Carolina. Ye mam bhajanti dampatye tapasa vratacharyaya kamatmano pavargesham mohita mama mayaya. Yea, those who, mam, me, bhajanti, worship, dampatye, for status in household life, tapasa, by penances, vrata, of vows, charyaya, and by the execution, kama atmanaha, lusty by nature, apavarga, of liberation, isham, the controller, mohitaha, bewildered, mama, my, mayaya, by the illusory material energy. So this is Krishna speaking to Rukmini after she defeated all of his points. BBT translation: although I have the power to award spiritual liberation, lusty persons worship me with penance and vows in order to get my blessings for their mundane family life. Such persons are bewildered by my illusory energy. BBT purport: the word dampatye indicates the relationship between husband and wife. Lusty and bewildered persons worship the Supreme Lord to enhance this relationship, though they know he can free them from their useless attachment to temporary things. So we're going to look at Sanatana Goswami's commentary, and I'm going to read the whole thing, but I want to start with the last paragraph. So you have the translation up here, the BBT translation. And the BBT translation is very much in accord with how Srila Prabhupada translates this verse in Krishna book. However, there's another way to translate this verse, which Srila Sanatana Goswami gives at the end of his commentary. Special love for me, endowed with the wealth of prema as a husband by a person who takes herself as a wife, is the best. Those who worship me for the pleasure of married life with me, because of prema for me, kam atmanaha, are not affected, mad utita, by my maya, although it is difficult to overcome. A very different way of translating this verse, and I thought it was particularly interesting. Kama atmanaha, kama atma, an atma, a person who's full of kama, who's full of desires. Srila Sanatana Goswami is also translating as someone who's full of prema for the Lord. So, and instead of saying somebody who wants desires to be happy between husband and wife, he's saying it can also be translated someone who wants Krishna as the husband, wants to be the wife of Krishna as the husband. Okay, I want to go through the whole commentary of Srila Sanatana Goswami. Having praised her devotion filled with love for him as a husband, in order to emphasize this, he criticizes materialists who worship him for their love in the material world. He criticizes the purpose of household life of both husband and wife. And that's significant because I know in our Hare Krishna movement, there's often been an emphasis in one direction. You know, there's often been an emphasis of criticizing women, you know, criticizing men who want wives. But here Krishna is criticizing equally men who want to marry and women who want to marry, and going to the Lord for that purpose. Couples who worship me by repeatedly performing vratas and austerities according to their swadharma with great attachment, with hearts absorbed in material enjoyment, kamatmanaha, are completely bewildered by my Maya, although I am the giver of prema, apavarga isham. This refers to what was said about the Lord in his special manifestation in Ketu Mala Varsho. So we've had other references by the Acharyas to this other section of the Bhagavatam, of 5th canto, chapter 18, text here 19 to 21. These prayers in the 5th canto are by Lakshmi Devi, who is the same as Rukmini, to the Lord in his appearance as Kamadev, Pradyumna, which is also in his Vishnu Tattva. So they're quoting prayers made by Lakshmi Devi to Lord Vishnu. Worshipping you, Rishikesh, the natural, this is quoting the translation of 5:18:19. Worshipping you, Rishikesh, the natural controller of the senses, by performing vows, women in this world ask for a husband other than you. The husbands cannot protect their children, wealth, or duration of life because they are dependent. Translation of the next verse, so this is 5:18:20. Since the Lord by nature has no fear, he protects all persons. He alone should be the husband. Otherwise, there is mutual fear. The wise do not accept anything better than attaining you. And the translation for 5:18:21. O Lord, the woman who desires to worship your lotus feet has all her desires fulfilled. You also give this result to a woman who worships with a material desire, because when the result is finished, she will suffer. And then again, Sanatana Goswami gives his alternate translation of the verse, which I will read again. Or a special love for me, endowed with the wealth of prema as a husband, by a person who takes herself as a wife, is the best. Those who worship me for the pleasure of married life with me, because of prema for me, kamatmanaha, are not affected, mad uhitaha, by my maya, although it is difficult to overcome. Ye mam bhajantitam pache tapasavratacharyaya kamatmano pravargesham mohita mamamaya. Although I have the power to award spiritual liberation, lusty persons worship me with penance and vows in order to get my blessings for their mundane family life. Such persons are bewildered by my illusory energy. So the point is that we all know, everybody knows, that the highest thing that one can achieve in this world, the most satisfying thing that one can achieve in this world is love. Yes? This is not a secret. If a person has vast amounts of wealth and vast amounts of power and control, but they don't love anyone and no one loves them, they're not happy people. Am I correct? And if a person is surrounded by love, if they have loving family and friends, even a loving pet, they're going to be a lot happier than the person with all the opulences, but without any love. And what's interesting is that loving is actually more pleasurable than being loved. The most pleasurable thing is loving. Even if we love, our plants in the garden, that feeling of being filled with love for another living entity. I remember Champaka was discussing this with me many years ago, how when Krishna tells the gopis, I can't repay you, be satisfied with your service to me, that what's implied there is if we're full of love for the Lord, even if it seems that he's neglecting us, like the last verse of the Shikshastaka, we're still going to be happy that we're filled with that love. Everybody knows this, yes? Unfortunately, there are sakama devotees, we have the word kama here, sakama, with desires, who worship the Lord for the purpose of gaining material love. But there are also devotees who are aspiring for spiritual love, who may ask the Lord for something. And are they sakama devotees? We're going to look at that. And if we ask the Lord for love of him, that puts us above Maya, as Srila Sanatana Goswami is explaining, if we're asking for that kind of love. And therefore, we should not only be aspiring for that kind of love, but we should help others to do that. So everyone understanding that love is the highest goal, there are many people who worship the Lord for the purpose, not of loving the Lord, but for the purpose of having loving relationships in this world. And I think we can say pretty definitively that the vast majority of religious and spiritual people in the world are in that category. They take up religion or some kind of spirituality in order to enjoy the world better. So that's much more intelligent than materialists who try to enjoy the world without reference to the creator and maintainer. I mean, that's just intelligent. Just like if you want to be happy here at the temple, it's probably a good idea to get along with the people who manage the temple, right? That's just good sense. If you want to be happy at work, then it's probably a good idea to have a good relationship with the people who own the company or the people who manage the company. I mean, that's just like logical. I remember some years ago, there was someone doing a project here who wanted to do that without cooperating with the temple leaders. And I said to her, that's not going to work. You know, it's just not going to be compatible. So the materialistic people who are not thinking about God, they're just trying to figure out how the universe works. They're trying to figure out the laws of the universe so they can manipulate them without taking into consideration that there's persons controlling the universe. That you have to be in cooperation with those persons. So people who are a little bit more intelligent, they go to the Lord and they say, my dear Lord, please give me a nice wife, give me a nice husband, give me money, give me a nice house, give me good health, you know, that kind of thing. Please give me all these things. Of course, that kind of devotee is considered more or less like a merchant. You know, like we go to a store and we say, can you give me whatever? You know, can you give me apples? And after they've given you the apples, you leave the store. And if they don't have any apples, you also leave the store. So people pray to the Lord for something, and after he grants it, then they leave. They're not interested in they're not really interested in a relationship with the Lord. And if the Lord doesn't give them what they want, then they become bitter and angry. Well, I'll make some other arrangement. So it's a transactional relationship. And this is a sakama devotee. I mean, one of the prime examples we have of this is Indra, where Indra, when he wasn't being worshipped in the Indra Yajna by the residents of Vrindavan, he gets so offended that he wants to kill everybody. I mean, that's really being offended. Hopefully none of us have ever felt that offended, that we wanted to destroy the whole village and kill everybody. So he really, you know, it was all about him. And then he apologizes to Krishna, and I won't do this again, and I'm so sorry, and I was such a fool. And then when Krishna takes a tree from his planet after fighting a battle on Indra's behalf to get back the possessions of Indra's mother, after he does a favor for Indra, and then he takes a tree, then Indra has a whole battle with him for the sake of a tree. I mean, first he's ready to destroy a village because he doesn't get some food from villagers. And he's the king of heaven, you know. What does he need food from one village for? And then he's fighting over a tree. So this is a typical sakama devotee. And, you know, people are very critical of religions in this world. But you'll find that the religious people they're criticizing are sakama devotees. They're materialistic devotees who they have some motive. We've all dealt with people like this in our own life. We've all dealt with people who are nice to us and trying to please us because they want something from us. Yes, everyone's dealt with people like that. They want to make us happy, but they want to make us happy because if they make us happy, we'll do something for them. They have something in mind. And again, if we do something for them, as soon as that's completed, they're no longer interested in making us happy. Or if we don't reciprocate the way that they want, they're also no longer interested in making us happy. So they're not interested in making us happy for us. They're interested in making us happy really for themselves. Now, this is not a pleasant thing to say, but our material relationships are generally all like this. Generally, some exceptions, but generally they're like this. That I want to please another jiva, not because I really care about their happiness, but because I'm thinking about what they can do for me. And it's very calculated. Even that very famous book, Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, he has a whole section there of how men and women keep score. You know, I've done this, I've done this, I've done this, I've done this, so when are you going to do this? Right? And well, you know, I've done too much for you now, and you haven't done enough for me, and how much, this constant calculating. And Krishna is very heavy about this in the 32nd chapter of the 10th canto. He said people who have a merchant relationship don't really have any love at all. He said they have no dharma, and they have no love, and they have no friendship. And he says they're worse from people who don't even have a pretense of love, which is like a really, really heavy state. That kind of so-called love doesn't satisfy us. And that kind of religion doesn't satisfy us either, nor does that kind of religion purify the world. Now, having said that, it's better for people to go to God as Sakama devotees than to be materialists. Because at least you're looking in the right direction. But it's not something that's going to make anyone happy or purify the world. That doesn't work. Now, what about devotees who want pure love of God, but they still ask the Lord for something? So Ratnaradika spoke about this on Friday, and she mentioned Kardama Muni. And Kardama Muni is interesting because he directly relates to today's verse. He specifically asked the Lord for a compatible wife. In fact, he did. Tapasa and vrata we have in the Sanskrit of today's verse. He did austerities and vows just to get a compatible wife. Sama, a wife who was of like quality. So I'm going to take a little side track here and make a political announcement that husbands and wives can be of the same quality. Women have different qualities. All women are not just lobby beings. He was looking for a woman who was compatible. And when the Lord appeared to Kardama Muni and said, I have already arranged for a compatible wife, that must mean that Devahuti had the mentality of a Brahmana. Otherwise, she wouldn't have been compatible with Kardama Muni. So I've heard many people tell me, oh, you know, Devahuti must have been a Kshatriya because she came from a family of Kshatriyas. But my response is then she wouldn't have been Sama. She wouldn't have been equal with Kardama Muni, and she wouldn't have been of the same quality. So her quality was different from that of her parents. Okay, back to the main topic. So Kardama Muni asked the Lord for a compatible wife. And it's interesting that when the Lord comes, Kardama Muni says, you know, I'm sorry, I've asked you for this. I should have just asked you for pure devotional service, but this is where I'm at. So I think most of us have asked Krishna for something. One of my godbrothers had some severe medical problem, and he wrote about how he asked the Lord, my dear Lord, I need $5,000 from my medical bills, and I've never asked you for anything up to this point. And I thought, well, that's pretty extraordinary. Never to have asked Krishna for anything. So I want to turn to, since Srila Sanatana Goswami quoted 5:18:19-21 in his commentary, I wanted to go to Prabhupada's purport to 5:18:21. So here Srila Prabhupada writes, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains that even if a devotee wishes the Lord to fulfill a particular desire, the devotee should not be considered a Sakama devotee or a devotee with some motive. In the Bhagavad Gita, 7:16, Krishna says, Chaturvida bhajante mam jana sukritino arjuna artho jignansha artarti jnana sabharatar shabha. O best among the Bharatas, 4 kinds of pious men render devotional service unto me. The distressed, the desire of wealth, the inquisitive, and he who is searching for knowledge of the Absolute. The Arta and Artarti, who approach the Supreme Personality of Godhead for relief from misery or for some money, are not Sakama Bhaktas. although they appear to be. Being neophyte devotees, they are simply ignorant. Later in Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says, Udara sarva evite. They are all magnanimous. Udaraha. Udara means like elevated. Although in the beginning a devotee may harbor some desire, in due course of time it will vanish. Therefore, the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam enjoins akama sarva kama va moksha kama udara di. We have this udara again. Tivrena bhakti yogena jadeta purusham param. A person who has broader intelligence, whether he is full of all material desire, is free of material desire, or has a desire for liberation, must by all means worship the Supreme Whole, the personality of Godhead. Even if one wants something material, he should pray to no one but the Lord to fulfill his desire. If one approaches a demigod for the fulfillment of desires, he is to be considered nasta buddhi, bereft of all good sense. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 7:20, Kamastastar rittagyana prapadyatenya devata tam tam niyama ashtaya prakrita niyata swaya. Those whose minds are distorted by material desires surrender unto demigods and follow the particular rules and regulation of worship according to their desires. Lakshmi Devi advises all devotees who approach the Lord with material desires that according to her practical experience, the Lord is Kamadev, in other words, he's the Lord of desires. And thus there is no need to ask him for anything material. She says that everyone should simply serve the Lord without any motive. Since the Supreme Personality of Godhead is sitting in everyone's heart, he knows everyone's thoughts, and in due course of time he will fulfill all desires. Therefore, let us completely depend on the service of the Lord without bothering him with our material requests. So I thought that was a very nourishing and a statement that kind of gives us some solace. That even though, I go to the Lord sometimes, my dear Lord, could you please arrange this thing? Would you please arrange this thing? That doesn't push us into the category of being a transactional devotee. I mean, let's think of this as a material example, right? So yesterday was my great-grandson Abhimanyu's 7th birthday, and I asked his mother, what would he like for his birthday? And she said, he would like some Legos, right? So I bought him some Legos. Or it was just recently my grandson Devesh's 18th birthday, now my 6th adult grandchild. And I'm thinking, what would he like? Right? What would he like? So even though the relationship may not be transactional, in other words, the love between myself and my grandson or my great-grandson, it may not be a transactional relationship. Still, we might ask for something. What would you like for your birthday? I would like this. Or I remember when it was Nrsinga's birthday, Padma said, what kind of cake would you want? And he said, vanilla strawberry chocolate. So she made him a 3-layer cake, a vanilla layer, a strawberry layer, and a chocolate layer. I think she posted it on Reddit or something, and I think it got maybe 1 million views and comments on it. So that dealing doesn't make the relationship transactional. Do you follow? The relationship between this mother and child, they want to please each other. The mother wants the child to be pleased just for the child's pleasure, not to get something from the child. And the child may be wanting the mother just to be pleased just for the mother's pleasure, not to get something for the mother. But still the child may say, I want a chocolate vanilla strawberry cake. They may, and in fact, we like it when the people we love let us know what they want, don't we? Yes? Like I always tell people when you're getting married, have a wedding registry so I know what you want. And so I don't get you your 5th blender. Let me know. Now, of course, the difference with Krishna is that he already knows what we want. We don't have to verbalize it. And the great devotees don't even go there in their mind. The great devotees are so confident that Krishna knows whatever they want and whatever they need that they don't even think about whatever they want and whatever they need. It's out of their mind. And we may not have any equivalent or nearly equivalent worldly experience of this, but if you've ever had a really, really good boss, then, and I've had that happen to me twice, where I've worked under authorities that were so good at being authorities that all I had to think about was my own service. I didn't have to worry about anything else because I knew that they would take care of everything. Now, I've asked thousands of people in the world, how many of you have worked under a boss like that? And out of a group of 300 people, 3 or 4 will raise their hands. So it's not a common experience. But if you can have some idea of what that might be like if you haven't experienced that. If, let's say you were working for a company where the people managing the company were so in tune with what was going on that they knew what was needed without anybody having to ask. When I was studying leadership in postgraduate studies, they talked about management by walking around. And when I was a vice principal in, I don't remember its new name, it used to be called Cameron Park School, River Park now. So every day I would try to get into all 22 classrooms. Now, because there were constantly crises coming up, that I didn't always make it into all 22 classrooms 5 days a week. But that was my goal, and I probably at least 3 days a week did that, and the other 2 days probably got into like 18, 19 of the classrooms. And you go in there for just 2-3 minutes, and you have this little checklist that you're looking for. And if you're doing that every day, you get a really, really good sense of what each teacher is like, what each classroom is like, what's going on. And you can sense what the needs are before they're even articulated. And you can go in there and you can say, hey, and the teachers will just come and see that you got something for them, or oh, how did you know I needed this? Oh, because I was I was sensing the system by being in touch with it all the time. So Krishna is certainly doing this much better. I mean, he doesn't have to walk around to all the classrooms. You follow? And he doesn't get waylaid in the hallway by 2 kids that were fighting on the bus, and the parents have come in to fight with you about it. He's already everywhere. He's already sensing the whole system. So he already knows. Right? Therefore, he says, Nir Yoga Kshema Atmavam in 245. Don't worry about what you have, protecting what you have, and getting what you need. Concentrate on Atma, concentrate on the spiritual. And then in the 9th chapter, he says, Yoga Kshema Vaham Yaham. I'll take care of that. But many of us, when we hear that, we're like, well, will he really? Maybe I need to ask. So that's okay. That's okay. If we're not at that level, don't fake being something you're not. It doesn't work at all. So if we're not at that level, and we're not quite sure that he's in every atom and in our heart, and we're not quite sure that he's going to take care of everything, then we can ask. And as long as that's within the context of being a submissive devotee, Krishna actually finds that charming. If the mood is, my dear Lord, I would really like a compatible wife, and I haven't been able to find one myself. I've looked all over the place. Can you please arrange it? And look, Lord, if you don't want to arrange it, if you want me to be alone the rest of my life, I accept. Whatever you feel is best for me, I accept. Or if you put me in what looks like a good marriage and ends up to be a catastrophe, then I accept that too. I accept whatever you think is best for me. This is what I would like, but I defer to your judgment and your wisdom. And then to let go. So therefore the devotee is not a sakama devotee. But the best thing to ask for is to ask for our relationship with Krishna to be revived. That's the best thing to ask for, because only that's going to satisfy us. Even if I get the most perfect loving spouse and the most perfect loving children and the most perfect loving dog or cow or whatever, I'm not going to be fully satisfied with that, because no jiva has the capacity to fully satisfy me, no matter how much they love me and how much I love them. And no matter how much that reciprocal love is non-transactional, it still can't fully satisfy me, because a jiva doesn't have that capacity. It's like I have a battery in my phone, but I cannot power the lights in the temple room from my phone battery. Our desire is for infinite love. That's our desire. We're made for that. It's our constitutional nature, is to be filled infinitely with love for the infinite. And the other is, it's just not going to satisfy us. It's just not. We may need to work on that platform at this particular point in our life, and that's perfectly, totally acceptable and can be used in Krishna's service. But to think that that alone will satisfy us is foolishness. So even though I may ask the Lord, please can you give me a baby? Please can you give me a husband? Please can you give me a wife? Please can you give me a cow? Whatever. A cow, a dog to love. My Lord, ultimately, I want my love for you to be awakened. I want to be filled. I want you to fill me with love, with my love for you. I want you to awaken my love for you. I want to, as Radharani was talking so nicely about prema yesterday, I want you to soften my heart so that my heart is flowing with love for you. And not just in a general way, but in my specific, and Radharani was also so nicely talking about this yesterday, in my specific relationship. I mean, here Sanatana Goswami is talking about seeing the Lord as one's husband, but it can also be seeing the Lord as one's friend, one's son, one's master. However, that I want that to awaken. And the glory of that is when that awakens, then I do have love for other jivas. My love, that love for Krishna, that actually infinite love for Krishna, also encompasses love for all of his parts and parcels. And then we can have deeply satisfying relationships with other living entities. So much so, we have this song, Sri Rupa Manjari Pada, the love for Rupa Manjari is described practically like the love for Krishna. Because when we actually, when our natural love for Krishna is flowing like that, then we can have real love for everyone. And then we're actually satisfied. That's what we want. That's what we should be asking for. Even if due to our situation, we may ask for other things along the way, it should be within the context of that and not transactionally. And then it's really nice in the end of the purport to 5:18:20, which again, quoted by Srila Sanatana Goswami in his commentary. So Prabhupada is talking about how Krishna is the supreme husband. He says, Nate vidu swarka dutim hi Vishnu. That's quoting Prahlad Maharaj. People do not know that real advancement in life consists of accepting the Supreme Personality of Godhead as one's master. Instead of deceiving themselves and others by pretending to be all-powerful, all political leaders, husbands, and guardians should spread the Krishna consciousness movement so that everyone can learn how to surrender to Krishna, the Supreme Husband. So not only should we be aspiring for that, but we should help others to aspire for that. Anyone that we have any influence on, anyone that we have any authority over, anyone that we have any way, we should inspire them. Turn your love to the supreme lovable person. Yes. So we admit love is the highest. Love is the only thing that's satisfied. That's a fact. But having a transactional relationship with the Lord, asking him for material love, is not going to bring us the real fruits of spirituality. Nor is it going to be of ultimate benefit to the world. So instead, we want to ask for the pure love of Krishna, and in that context, in our advancement, if on the way we're asking for this or that or the other thing, then that is simply due to the fact that we are not yet mature. It doesn't mean that we're transactional. It just means that we're not yet mature, and we have to be as mature as we are at the present time. Like I said, Abhimanyu had his 7th birthday yesterday, not his 17th birthday. Right? And probably at his 27th birthday, he won't have the same desires for presents that he has at his 7th birthday. And that's okay to be where one is. But when we ask for the ultimate thing, then we're no longer influenced by the material energy. Then we have clarity. That's the state of being not bewildered. So we want to aim for that for ourselves and others. So we have like 2 minutes. Yes, Drista Prabhu. Yes. Okay, so Drista Prabhu said maybe the Western religions have done everyone a favor by eliminating demigods because people go to gods. Well, Catholicism hasn't done that. In Catholicism, they're praying to Mother Mary, they're praying to the saints, they're praying to the angels. So Catholicism is definitely still operating at that level. And Protestant Christianity, by eliminating the saints and Mary, actually has a problem with eliminating some concept of sadhu sangha and the grace of guru. So it's kind of a Islam eliminate. Well, in Islam they have some concept of angels. In fact, their understanding is that Muhammad learned from the angels. So they definitely have some concept of angels. You don't pray to them. Yeah. And Judaism is similar to Protestant Christianity. You only pray to God. Right. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam ki jai.